You are listening to Real Men Feel with Andy Grant. Real Men Feel encourages men to allow and express all of their emotions. Despite what you may have been taught, all emotions do serve you. Real Men Feel is committed to engaging in discussions that most men aren't having, but all men can benefit from. All links mentioned in each episode are in the show notes found on the blog at realmenfeel.org. Now, let's get to it. Hello and welcome to another edition of Real Men Feel. I am your host, Andy Grant, and I am not feeling good today. I'm really feeling the sadness, of the world, of our society, of everything happening. I've been on the verge of tears for a few days, and the racial relations is kind of putting it over the top for me, maybe. I just found out someone is trying to commit unemployment fraud in my name. That's another weird thing happening. But I've always been empathic, and in the past I would get in trouble thinking the sadness and depression I might feel was mine, and it wasn't. And I feel like I'm just feeling the general dread and fear of humanity right now, and it's really unsettling. And if this was any other conversation, I wouldn't even do a show today. That's how weird and off I feel. But returning today is a psychotherapist and author of 16 books who's been helping men and women. Let's take it again. My returning guest today is psychotherapist and author of 16 books who's been helping men and the women who love them for over 40 years. Glad to have Jed Diamond here.
Good to be with you, Andy.
So you had sent me a couple documents, and I was reading them last night and this morning, and talking about the shift from pre-COVID life to post-COVID life, and what has to happen, and what do you see are the big lessons?
Well, there's a lot of big lessons. One of which you're just expressing personally is that this is probably the first event in human history, that's a long time, human history, that something has both impacted the entire world at the same time. That's number one. Secondly, has put as many people at risk for their lives and their well-being. And third, that we're constantly being bombarded with knowing what's going on everywhere and how it's affecting people. So there was a pandemic in 1918, where most of us were not alive during that time, that killed 50 to 100 million people worldwide. But most people didn't know about it. There was a war going on. And so people were very aware of the war, not so much about the virus. So the fact that this is here at this time, that it's affected the whole world, it's a very contagious virus, so it's easy for people to get it. Secondly, it's a virus that doesn't make people sick initially, so many people can have it and you don't know it. And third, 80% of the people who get it will not have serious symptoms. So all the people we hear that are dying, for the most part, I mean, you can't die from it if you're in a low risk group, but the 20% are in a high risk group, people who are older, like me, who are male. Turns out males are dying at twice the rate as females at every age, or have other kind of health issues, cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, overweight, a number of things that make you more likely. So the result is we are feeling, whether it is affecting us personally, we feel the deaths that are going on, we feel the violence that's going on, we feel the fear that's going on, we feel that tendency to deny, I don't want to feel it, I don't want to know it, I just want to drink and, eat, drink and be merry and not think about it, or go out and party. And so all of that is basically a response to the fact that we're all in this together. There is a virus out there that, for the most part, won't kill everybody, but will kill a significant number of people. And the response, though, is affecting everybody. The fear that it causes is affecting everybody. The anger that it brings out is affecting everybody. The look for, a cause, a scapegoat. Well, I can't see the virus. I can't hit it. I can't defend it. So I will take my anger out on this person, or I will, get in a fight with my wife or my kids or my dog or whatever. So everybody, to some degree or other, is feeling what you're feeling today. I felt it 2 weeks ago, and now I feel better. And it'll come back again, and I'll be a mess, from now. And so part of, I think, the healing is just what you're doing. Instead of going, well, I'll just keep it to myself, I'll just hide. We need to tell each other, hey, you know what? Today is a pretty rough day. Or for me, in this case, today's a really good day. I'm feeling great. My wife's feeling good. I'm putting out good information that I think will help people. I'm safe. I'm alive. My kids are safe and alive. So it's a good day. But I guarantee I will be feeling some of those ups and down feeling that you're feeling. And so is everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. It's everything. For a while during the beginning of the pandemic, I felt so good. I almost felt bad for feeling good, like not being afraid or something. Yeah. And even now, the news just came out today. We're recording this May 28th, that now 1 in 4 Americans are unemployed. So that number keeps growing, and now it's more than the depression ever was. So what seems to be driving fear in the streets is economic fear, their well-being, as opposed to their health. And, we have a president that can't even agree that what his own task force says is the thing to do is the thing to do. So we have this battle of what is the truth, even if you believe. And even beyond that, there's some people arguing different things of the truth of the virus and is it real, where did it come from, and all that. Conspiracy theory sort of stuff is just bubbling over. But now with the death in Minneapolis, it was a murder of a black man in the street by a police officer. I don't know how you can call it anything else but that. Sure. And I have not watched the news because I'm just was already triggered and troubled by all of this. I did a show a few weeks ago where I had 3 prior guests return, all African Americans, talking about the fear they live in every day. And I had an inkling, I guess, but I didn't know that it was really every day and how afraid they are and the impact on their lives. And so it's been hitting me way more now than any other past time. And it's horrible and tragic that there were past times of black men being killed by police as well. But I've seen it over and over, and I didn't have to watch. And I knew Minneapolis was going to end up with riots and violence. And that's what's happened.
Yeah.
I'm ready to give up on us. I'm used to feeling this way about myself, but now I feel it like for everybody. Like I'm going to start cheering for the virus. I want a stronger virus. Like, do we even deserve to be here anymore?
Well, here's the deal. From my perspective, you said, what's the bigger picture? This virus, number one, as I said, it's impacting everybody in the world at the same time. What you're describing in the streets, and we could cite many, many examples that tell us a couple of things, big picture things. It's telling us that we're out of balance with nature. Viruses like these don't just happen. The reason that they happen has to do with the way in which humans are interacting, in this case with the animal world, because that's how viruses get from animals where they live fairly okay. Viruses have been around for 3.5 billion years. They've been around almost as long as life has been around. Mm-hmm. And generally they interact in a natural way with most of the environment, including the animals that they inhabit. And they don't kill a lot of people because, they spread. That's what they do. That's the only way viruses live. They get into other living cells. But clearly what's going on is humans are out of balance with the natural world. The reason that these viruses are jumping from animal hosts into humans is because humans are doing things, to interact with animals in live animal markets where they're getting these exotic species that are then put into cages and then killed live in these markets because the feeling was this will make you sexier or this will give you that wild animal taste. So humans are interacting in ways that are not good for humans, not good for the environment, and we're getting a wake-up call. Same thing with these kind of events that are happening everywhere that tell us the environment is not in balance, that we're heating up the planet. So here's the deal that makes it, I think, a choice point in human history. You know, it seems very clear to me that what the big picture message is that we have a choice. We can either change our ways, and that goes everywhere from changing how we interact with minorities in our own world, to how we interact with the environment, to how we interact with animals, to how we interact with ourselves. And it's saying we can step up in ways that say, you know what, we're going to change things. We're not going to do it the same old way, because the truth is the same old, whether it's how we treat Black people in the United States, or how we treat animals in China, or how we treat the environment everywhere. This is saying if we do what we've been doing, humans won't be around. The viruses will be here long after we're gone, and Homo sapiens will disappear. Or we can decide, just like when we stopped being so at work, industrial work, the air got cleaner. The environment got nicer. We can work at things and make a good living without wrecking our environment. We can create an economy, that works for people, but not the kind of economy we've had that continues to use up more and more of the Earth's resources and makes garbage and waste. And we think we can do that forever. So we have a choice. And I think, where do I want to put my energy? I can either say, well, fuck it, let's all go down with the ship and just, leave the world for the viruses, or we can say, you know what, we can at least, we're going to die someday, no matter what, right? I mean, that isn't a choice. You're going to die, I'm going to die. Everybody alive today is going to die. It's a question of what do you want to do with the life that you have? And part of it, do I want to feel my truth and feel my real feelings? Or do I want to pretend I don't feel that way? Do I want to push them aside, or do I want to share them publicly as we are right now? And then beyond that, how do I want to show up for my children? I have 5 children and 17 grandchildren. And what do I want to leave for them? Do I want to give up on them and say, well, I'm going to leave it to the virus, let them take everybody, my kids, my grandkids, future generations? Or do I want to say, you know what, I can't go back to business as usual because that's just slower death and will eventually kill them too? Or do I want to start doing in my own life and teaching other people in their lives? How do we make the changes that absolutely have to be made, and that this virus is telling us, is teaching us, hey, you know what? You want to be in relationship, you want to live as a species 3.5 billion years instead of the way you're going now, which is going to be a very short human lifespan for our species if we don't get the message and wake up. Well, I think there's a lot of people waking up right now because we're forced to, and we're waking up to a lot of the destructive things we've done, and we're waking up to the fact that we have a choice and we can change things.
Yeah. And we've talked about this before, but in my spiritual practice and growth over the years, I've often had meditation results and images, and just this knowing that I was going to be alive during kind of the crumbling of the civilization, and knowing that every empire has fallen, and that I was going to be alive kind of during, maybe the fall of the American empire. And that was part of my suicidal thinking, even like when I was growing up and having trouble, like, well, I have this sense that it's going to be really hellish at some point. Why do I want to be here for that? And I know you've had an experience too. So you want to share your vision?
Yeah, I had a vision, and I got to preface it with, I'm not a vision kind of guy. So, I'm a scientist, basically. I'm a therapist. I look and I work on evidence. And so the idea of what I experienced was somewhat unsettling, to say the least, for me. So give you the picture. I was in a sweat lodge ceremony at a men's gathering, in 1993. So that's how long ago it was. We're talking, 27 years ago. And it was a sweat lodge. If any of you have been in or know about a sweat lodge, it's one of the oldest spiritual practices of being in an enclosed space with hot rocks that you put steam on, and it's a cleansing. It's a place where you pray. It's a place where you talk to the ancestors about what do I need to change in my own life? What does our tribe need to change? So it's very ancient. Native Americans have done it. They have things like this in other cultures all over the world. So I was in the sweat lodge. This is the fourth round. So we've been doing it a while. And all of a sudden, the person that was putting the water on the stones put too much water. It got incredibly hot, hotter than anybody could stand. And a number of people just crawled out of the enclosure, including the leader of the sweat lodge. I was in the back of the sweat lodge where it's the hottest, and I have asthma, so it's often hard for me to even be in a lodge. But I was transported into a vision. And what I saw in the vision was we were all on the ship of civilization. And that was not just the US, it was this whole civilization that's been going on 10,000 years. And the ship was sinking. And people didn't believe it was sinking because it's an unsinkable ship, been going on forever, will go on forever, except it wasn't. And the people that tried to warn those at the top of the ship, the people that were running the dominant culture of civilization, they don't worry about it, it can't. And they locked up the people literally in this vision who were saying, this isn't working. The ship is actually sinking. It's got a leak and water's coming in. And people started to escape. I don't care what you say, it's sinking and I'm getting out of here. And people got into lifeboats. And in the vision, each person could only get into a single boat. You couldn't get in a boat with a bunch of other people. You had to get in your own boat and row yourself in whatever direction you needed to go to get off the ship of civilization. And in the vision, what happened is as the people that got off were in a configuration of different connections through time off the ship, a new kind of network was formed. That was what was clear, that would communicate differently and would be able to create a new way of life beyond civilization that would be more sustainable, more livable, and more equal, because instead of it being hierarchical. And when I read Riane Eisler's book about the chalice and the blade and the difference between the dominator culture and the partnership culture, I realized this is what the vision was saying to me. And I've been questioning, well, what does that mean? What does it mean to get off the ship of civilization? Well, now I think we've got probably the most clear wake-up call and clear, what does that mean? Well, it means we have to pay attention. It means we have to really notice how we feel. It means we have to change the way we interact with the environment. It means we can no longer keep heating up the environment and making the life support system unlivable for humans. It means we need to change our economic system, because our economic system is good for a very small piece of the 1% or the 1/10 of 1% at the top, and the people that are down below are not doing well. And now that economic system is crashing. And a lot of people are going to suffer from it, but out of that, we could and must create a different world if we want to, survive. And I had the vision that it's possible. It isn't hopeless. In fact, there's some very specific guidance. That's what I teach, on articles I write, books that I write. I say, all right, now you're ready to hear. I've been talking about this for 27 years, and most of that time people didn't want to hear it. That's too scary. I don't see it happening. Things look pretty good where I am. Or some people have said, I kind of get it. Well, more and more people are not just kind of getting it, they're getting it. And more people are going to go, even if I could go back to business as usual, I don't want to. I want something better than the world that we've been living in. And as long as I'm going to be alive and I have any strength and I have children and grandchildren that I want to have a better world, that's where I'm going to put my energies.
Cool. So when you first had the vision back in 93, did it hit you that civilization was the sinking ship then? Or were you kind of like waiting to see it? Like, is it now? Has it been for the 27 years? What was that experience?
Well, it was very strange. I still remember it. And there's some people that I know, friends, who were there. And when I came out of that sweat lodge, one, it scared the shit out of me. I mean, it was like you'd expect when all of a sudden you see the end of the world. So the first thing was just shock, trauma. It's like, looking not only at your own death, but looking at the death of everybody. So that was the first thing. It was just, shock and overwhelm. Then I started seeing the other part of the vision. Oh yeah, there were these lifeboats. Not everybody went down with the ship. There was hope for some people that said, I see a different way, or I'm not even sure where I want to go, but I know I got to get off this. So gradually then over the time of the gathering, we were there for 3 days, I shared it with some people, and a number of people were like, what does that mean? How do you get off if, in fact, the ship of civilization back in 1993 is sinking? What does that mean? Well, I think even in 1993, there were people that said, race relationships are not as good as they could be. There's conflicts between different groups. The environment is in trouble. Even back then, people were recognizing something needs to change. There were people that were saying our economic system isn't working. So there were some people even then that saw that and have been doing things ever since then. But it's gotten increasingly clear to me, and with the COVID-19 happening, it's become crystal clear in my mind that this may be the last wake-up call. We've been getting numerous wake-up calls, maybe in different forms, for 10,000 years that we haven't paid attention to because it hadn't been that bad for us. It's been bad for those people, and they've been saying, hey, this isn't working. Well, now the message is, you know what? It isn't working for all of us. There's nobody, whether you're rich, you're at the top of the ship, doesn't matter in the vision, whether you're on the penthouse suite at the top of the cruise ship, or you own the cruise ship and you're now on it, or you're in the boiler room down at the bottom where you're grimy and hot and sweaty. If the ship's sinking and you're on it, you're all going down. And that's, I think, what the message is now. It's saying your ship, civilization, not just American culture, not just Russian, Chinese, any other, it's saying the whole thing now, we're all connected. It's the first time in human history where the whole world is connected. A virus reminds us we are all connected. The virus will keep going until it infects everybody. Even when we get a vaccine, which we may or may not, there's not an AIDS vaccine, there's treatments. So it's telling us we're all connected, we're all vulnerable, and in a way that we have never experienced, we really are all in this together. Some people don't want to believe that, and some people don't want to make the changes, and some people want to stay on the Titanic and keep eating at the buffet. And some people are going to go, you know what? There's a better way. I'm going to take it.
Yeah. So it's going to be difficult for everybody, but if you resist the changes, will it be even more difficult?
Well, yeah, I don't know if it'll be more difficult. There's some people that Anybody who's dealt with addictions, there's some people just go, hey man, I want to check out. Give me my drug, give me my heroin, give me my movies, and so it will be not as difficult experientially. You may feel better if you deny it and you just pretend that it ain't happening or things are okay, until you get it, until you get sick. And the truth is, not everybody who gets it is going to get sick and die. In fact, most people who get it won't get real sick and they won't die. But the conditions that it's waking us up to, that's saying your environment is going to get you. If the virus doesn't get you, heating up the planet's going to get you. If heating up the planet isn't going to get you, and you keep as angry as you are with them, whoever them is in your world, and some of them have nuclear weapons, we can wipe the us's and them's out that way. Or we can start to go, you know what? I guess we have to change so we're not always on the brink of disaster. Let's clean it up. Let's clean the environment up. Let's learn to live with the viruses in a more healthy way, like we did for, 99% of human life. I mean, before civilization, humans lived in a much more balanced way with nature. Civilization's only, 6 to 10,000 years old. It's a long time, but compared to 2.5 or 3 million years that, humans or human-like creatures have been on the planet, is a relatively recent amount of time. So we've got a real long history of how to live in balance with nature. We have a very short, kind of time in which we've forgotten that. And we're clearly on the brink of, if we don't wake up from the nightmare, we're going to go over the edge. But we've got a long history of how to do it. And we've now got a wake-up call that's telling us exactly what we're up against. And there are many people who are going, out of this, I know what to do. I have some ideas. No one person is going to be able to come up with the magical, and I certainly don't have it, answer that everybody can follow. But enough people who want to get off that sinking ship and say, all right, let's talk to each other. Let's do some podcasts. Let's talk about, well, what do we need to do? How do we organize together? I haven't given up. How about you? What can you and I do? What can 10 of us do? Just like the virus, multiplies very fast, ideas can spread even faster, and we have technologies now that can spread good ideas all over the world. And if these good ideas that actually are sustainable and workable spread to enough people, and enough of us get to, say, hey, let's try that out. Let's see how it works. We can change things. And that's all I can do. Pretty exciting to think we are at this point. I mean, we don't have any choice about what period of time we live in. If you lived in the 1800s, that you'd be dealing with whatever the issues were then. If you live in it 2020, at the end of this civilization era, well, this is where you are being called on. Step up and join the change, or go back to sleep and, just pretend it ain't happening. Either way, you're going to die. I'll die. But each period of life calls on us to step up to our highest selves. What's your highest self? What's the best knowing, your best, highest purpose in life, that you really have been sent by your destiny to be here at this time? And what's mine? And what can we step up to together to maybe change things so that our children, grandchildren, the other generations that can still come after us, if we make some changes now, what can we step up to make that possible? That's what I'm interested in.
So we've been hitting snooze on the wake up calls keep getting snooze for decades. And it's interesting how you said, like, every issue that is hitting us right now, aside from the virus, was there in 93.
Right.
Just not loud enough for people to, or even it's not loud enough for people now to deal with at some point.
Some people didn't.
Yeah, one of the oldest pieces of kind of esoteric wisdom is the Emerald Tablet, and it's, as above, so below, as within, so without. And I've long like, wow, this virus is amazing. It's like, I find that all of the troubles among humans are the separation, the us and the them, as you said it. And there's infinite versions of us and them and who they are and where those lines are drawn. And here's this virus that says, all right, to survive, as within, so without. So now without, you've got to be 6 feet apart. You've got to, there's physical separation. Since you have mentally, emotionally, spiritually separated yourselves from each other so much, now here it is manifested in the world.
Exactly. And what also is being manifested, I have a group that I've been just making available. It's an online group that's free for anybody that wants to explore these issues in more depth. And one of the things, just checking in with people, there are people from all over the world that are on, my kind of Zoom sessions with people, and we check in. So how's it going for you? We had we meet every other week. The last one we had was yesterday. And so it's just like, okay, I asked the question, so what are you grateful for? And what are you afraid of these days? And what I heard consistently from a number of people, different parts of the world, that they were saying, I'm noticing there's actually more connections in my life than there were before. I may be physically distancing, but I'm calling up friends that I haven't talked to in a while. I'm reaching out to my kids and we're doing Zoom sessions, or our grandkids. I'm just reaching out to strangers who I pass on the street, and I smile and say, how you doing? Or, boy, what's it like for you? Or when we're at the market, and instead of just rushing in to get our food and get out, I look at some of those people that are in the stores every day, being available to feed us, or the people that are, driving the buses and the transportation, all the things that while we're staying distant, they're out there at risk. So what I found is there's actually starting to be a recognition that we maybe need and want to connect more deeply, and maybe we need to use other forms. We're obviously using a technology form right now that wasn't available, 30, 40, 50 years ago. So I think connection is the key. I think you hit it right on the nose. What started happening 10,000 years ago was we got disconnected from nature. We saw nature as something to be used rather than humans being a part of nature. We thought we needed to dominate, we needed to control nature. We did to nature, the natural world, we started doing to ourselves. We started disconnecting from our hearts. We started disconnecting from ourselves. And once we're disconnected from ourselves and we're treating ourselves, Martin Buber, the philosopher, said that there's two kinds of relationships that we can have. We can have an I-thou relationship, which is what humans had for, most of human history, or we can have an I-it relationship. An I-it relationship is we're disconnected. We treat the earth as a thing to be used. We treat ourselves as a thing to be used. We treat each other as things to be used. So now we're recognizing, it's kind of like the natural world says, hey, you guys go to your rooms and sit there and think about it. Take a look at what you're doing and don't come out until you've got, a different view of things. Listen, learn, look inside. It's kind of like a universal wake-up call, and in some ways a universal rite of passage that is telling us, all right, it's time to step into a new you, a new way of relating, a reconnecting with ourselves, each other, and the world, and an opportunity for us to be different people than we have been and create a different world than we've more recently created.
So as there was the Industrial Revolution and the Information Age Revolution, it's almost like there's an opportunity for a connection revolution?
Not only the opportunity, but in a sense, a very clear demand. It's saying, You either reconnect or you die. And some of the pain that you were speaking of at the beginning, and that so many people feel, is the grief of that reality. I mean, it's hard enough to deal with the reality of personal death, or the death of loved ones, or the death of family. And we've all experienced some degree of death, if not from the coronavirus, from other aspects of our lives. But it's a whole nother experience to even contemplate the death of humanity, the death of my children and grandchildren, before they grow up. I mean, or anybody, whether you have children or grandchildren, you know people, you care about people, you care about people and it's that potential for grief and for death. Also, I think the mirror image of that is the sadness, the deep sadness. The other side of that is the love, and desire for life that says, not on my watch. I'm not going to just lay down and die, nor am I going to simply eat, drink, and be merry and just wait for my time. Might as well have fun. If we're all going to die anyway, let's just go out in a flash. Or say, well, I choose a different thing. I choose to learn the lessons that the natural world is trying to teach us. And I think it's about reconnecting. And I'd rather do that. I think it's much more fun to connect in the short run. Why not? As long as I'm alive, why not be more connected? And why not learn to connect in the ways that I know are going to be helpful to keep humans alive longer and to get us back in balance with nature, so we become a healthy species, that all the other species of life go, hey, glad you humans are here. You've been a good partner for us. Because that's who we were for 99% of human history. The natural world looked at us and said, yeah, you're not dominating, you're not taking over, you're fairly, small group of you on the face of the planet compared to the other life, the rabbits and the deer and the bear and the microorganisms. You're fit in pretty well, and we can fit in well again, and I hope we will.
Okay, so I'm definitely so used to civilization that it's hard for me to comprehend that this sinking ship, civilization, can end, and it isn't the end of humanity.
Right.
So. Yeah. Are you saying it's just like civilization shifts, or truly is like, I guess I think civilization means people cooperating, people coming together, as opposed to just tribes and individuals on their own? That to me, that connection is not as strong as it was perhaps, but connection meant civilization.
Well, I think part of the problem is that when we went from being in balance with nature, what we called, the original partnership societies, the hunter-gatherers. And we began to exploit nature to have larger groupings of people, to go from villages to cities to, we kind of saw that as progress. We saw that as endless progress. We're going to have, more things, more goodies, more. And there was a lot that we created that was wonderful. We live healthier lives than people that lived, 10,000 years ago. We have, operas, and we have beauty, and we have, we have books, and we have a lot of things that we want to keep. But here's the thing that we don't always recognize, is that we can have all those good things, all the creative things, without destroying our relationship to the environment. We call it civilization. We named it ourselves, but another name, which Riane Eisler and others have said, and Jed Diamond and some other researchers called it, the Dominator Culture. And if we recognize that there was an original partnership culture, in a sense, it goes back to the beginning of time. Humans from our beginning evolved from other animals in balance with nature. And if we recognize that what can happen beyond the dominator culture and a return to our partnership roots, we're not going to go back to being hunter-gatherers. That was that period. But we can, as Daniel Quinn, who's written a number of books about this, he called it beyond civilization or beyond the dominator culture. I call it the new partnership culture that we are being called on to form, reconnecting in, ancient practices, but with the modern world that we want to keep. So that's, I think, the opportunity, but we have to let go of that conception that says civilization is one, it's inevitable, it's the best of what we could have, and that it will get better and better. And to be beyond civilization means that we go back to being in a way that's primitive, even though when you look at the way hunter-gatherers actually live, they actually live pretty healthy, positive lives. It isn't as dreary as some of those perceived it. And it can be even better if we develop a new partnership culture with taking what we've learned now and create something that's both as good as we would like it to be, but is sustainable. And that probably means there's going to be fewer humans on the face of the planet. You can't keep, any species can't keep adding people infinitely because it doesn't work. And we've been, if you look at any population studies, it just, humans have been going up and up and up and up. We can't do that. We can't have that kind of life. We can't use more and more and more and more and more of the Earth's resources that are finite and turn that into human stuff. That's got to end.
So in addition, or coming soon to the COVID-19 is obviously a mental health pandemic.
Right.
And are we already in that, or is that, a kind of a next wave?
Well, we've been in it as part of the dominator culture from the beginning. I mean, it goes with the dominant. When you are separated from nature, when you are separated from other people, when you're separated from yourself, you are going to be more depressed. You're going to be more anxious. You are going to be, more hostile. You're going to be angrier. So it's built in to the separation. So it's been there. But just like the wake-up calls since 1993, we haven't paid attention to them. So there's been mental health crises going on, but it's going up. The suicide rates are going up, particularly among men. The homicide rates are going up. The violence rates are going up. And with the loss of jobs, with the crash of the economy, this is going to impact men harder than women, although it's going to impact everybody, is happening. And we're seeing it in every little town. You're going to see more suicides. That's happening now. It's going to happen more, as people get out and start trying to get back to a normal work, and you find it isn't so simple. You can't just destroy jobs and then create them again overnight. A lot of people are going to lose a lot more and will be depressed. So part of what I've been doing, is, again, teaching people how do you not only get through this in a healthy way, how do you stay alive physically, but how do you stay healthy emotionally? How do you deal with the uncertainties? How do you deal with the fears? How do you deal with the loss of jobs? How do you deal with the fact that you may not have a job? How do you deal with the fact that what you did may no longer be viable? I was just talking to a guy just before I talked to you. He owns a huge health club and tennis club, and he was saying, I don't know how we're going to, they're mostly older people, who tend to join these country clubs. He's saying, I don't know how we're going to do that in the future. That may be a job that will go out of business. Can you really do a country club, one, it's elite, so you got to have a lot of money to join it, and maybe there's people are going to go have for years. Hey, how come you get to be in a club and the rest of us don't have parks and don't have places we can play tennis? So that may be a reality. But now with COVID, saying how do you protect yourselves and play tennis and use the bathrooms and swim in the swimming pool and doing all that? So everybody's going to have to decide, one, do I want to stay alive? Do I want to change the system? Do I want to adjust to this new world that we're in? And those that do, there's guidance available, not just what's happening from our government that said we could never give this much money to anything, and now all of a sudden we found the money.
Yeah.
And we may not agree on how it should be spent and whether it's actually going to all the people that need it, but you certainly got to say all of a sudden a government found money, and not just U.S. government, but governments all over the world, to spend money that they a month ago or 2 months ago or 3 months ago said it's impossible. We can't do it. They said it's impossible. We can't clean up the environment. Well, we did. Whether we want to keep it that way is another question, but we've done things that we thought were impossible. In this new world, we're going to be doing a whole lot of new and interesting and creative things. And I want to work with people who want to do that, want to find out how can we be creative? How can you make a good living in this new environment? How can you stay healthy in body, mind, and spirit and not have to succumb to a mental health pandemic that a lot of people are going to be caught in?
Do you think it's this inability or a lack of ability to deal with the fear and uncertainty that is leading to the rise in suicides for men?
It's certainly a part of it. I mean, suicides for men have been much higher than for women forever.
Yeah.
And I've wrote about this 30 years ago. But what we're doing is we're taking all the conditions that cause that, the separations, the demand, what we call the man box of these values that say, don't feel, don't talk about your insecurities. That adds to then feeling enclosed and under the pressure cooker. And all of those things have been there, but now we've added uncertainty, worries about death and dying, worries about, am I going to have a job? Am I going to be able to support my family? Am I going to lose any savings that I spent a lifetime accruing? Do I want to be alive? Is the world getting so chaotic and crazy and hostile? And, do I want to just check out? I mean, these are questions that are mental questions, emotional questions. And I think there are answers that more and more people are saying, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be hostile, angry, blaming. I want to find a different way. And I don't care whether I'm on the left or the right, or I'm a Republican or a Democrat or an independent. I can't keep demonizing the other side and making them the bad guy. We've got to find a different way to do politics. We've got to find a different way to do all our institutions, because if you take any of them, say, do you feel confident that politics is doing well by everybody? Most people would say no, whatever side you're on. Would you say our healthcare system is doing well by everybody? Go down any of the major systems, and I think most people would say they're not working so well. So let's make them work.
So I feel like my faith in all of us has been kicked in the nuts.
Yeah.
And your faith is still really strong. So has it always been that way? Are you always this confident in us pulling it off?
Well, today, I mean, if we had this 2 weeks ago, if you looked at my journal, I mean, this is the journal that I've been keeping just since the first of the year when I got sick. And maybe I had the early coronavirus in February, and it talks about my feelings of of death and dying and people. So I mean, if you read these pages, say, you don't sound so confident there.
Yeah.
So part of it is I generally am a pretty upbeat person. Number one, I've dealt with depression and manic depression, so I've been through it, and so I understand it better. So I don't run away from it. I've been suicidal. My father's been suicidal. So if you've lived it and come through it, it does strengthen you or crushes you. And the other is it helps to have had a vision 27 years ago that says, here's what you're going to face, and here's what you can do to fix it. That's nice. I mean, to have had a 27-year vision puts me in at least a better position. It hadn't stopped me from, having a journal where I go up and down and get depressed some days and feel discouraged some days and think, to hell with it, I'm tired of being inside. I just want to go out and have fun, or, I'm going to have 2 glasses of wine or maybe 3, because I just don't want to deal with it. So I think the key is that we've all felt discouraged. We've all, to some degree, probably had times, if you're of any age close to our ages, you probably had moments or weeks or months or years of despair. And if you've survived, if you're alive, if you're watching this, listening to this, you also have had wonderful moments of love and connection and gratitude and seeing positive signs of what can be, and seeing evidence that the world is more positive than our darkest, nights would tell us. So I think we really are together. Some of us have a piece of our work that calls us more to the public arena. That's why I write books, and I write an article every week. So I post, I go through these things, I tell people how I'm doing and my ups and downs. And I invite other people who resonate with, with what I'm doing or with what others doing, connect, join in. Don't be isolated. Don't be alone. That's the problem. The solution is to reconnect in some maybe new ways with maybe some new people or some old people that you've been, haven't been connected with for a while, and jump on board. This is a exciting time. And even when I feel down, I go, well, even today I feel down. Well, that's an exciting time too.
Right. Yeah. Things can be exciting, and you don't have to enjoy the excitement, but you can't deny that. Yeah. I mean, it's the old, I don't know if it's a Chinese blessing or a curse, but may you live in interesting times. And right. we certainly are.
We certainly are.
There's no doubt on that.
We certainly are.
So is there any other kind of concrete steps that you could recommend someone to better navigate the sinking of the ship they're on, besides, connecting and joining in and recognizing our own resilience perhaps more, and then choosing to do something with it?
Well, all of those things. I mean, just what you said, when you get that we clearly see something's dying, something's going under, and the intuition, unless you broaden your vision, is that it feels like everything's falling apart. It feels like everything's crashing, and it can feel discouraging if it feels like this is the end, the ship's going down. If you recognize that something is ending, but it isn't the end of humanity, unless we decide it is. Like I said, it helped me to realize, for 99% of human history, we've lived pretty well in balance. For 1% or a 0.5%, we've gotten careless, we've gotten traumatized, we've acted out of a wish to dominate that ultimately is a death wish. So just seeing that this isn't the end, This is just the end of a culture, a way of being, a dominator culture that wasn't sustainable and that we could choose a different way. So that's number one. Secondly, making a decision that says, I'm going to step up to what I know could be helpful in my life. So it means being smart and staying alive, you know, being safe. And there's lots of good information about how do you keep from dying from the virus. There's also good information that then says, okay, now that I'm going to be alive, how do I want to do with my life in these new times? Because I think that this virus is telling us this is the end of a human lifespan that's gone on for 10,000 years. It's over. This is the end of it. It's going down. And if we choose to go forward, we have to go forward with some new beliefs, some new practices, some new connections, and that it's a opportunity to realize we really are resilient. You know, we are made for these times. You know, those of us that are here who see this, who are listening to this, who say, yeah, I want to be one of the people that gets off the sinking ship. I'm not even sure what that means. I certainly didn't know what it meant at the beginning, but I said, I want to be one of those people. I don't want to go down with this ship. It's not a good ship to go down with. I want to talk to the other people that want to get off the ship and want to build something different. And then make those connections, you know, come visit, come see who else is out there, see who your new, you know, connecting mates are. They may not be the same old people that you used to hang out with. Maybe they are. Maybe they find out, hey, you're here too? Hey, that's great. Let's talk more. So I think, you know, there's some exciting opportunities for us to get through this together, to stay sane, to not let the uncertainty. I guess one final thing that I would remind myself and others to do is that our brains are hardwired for the negative. It's what kept us alive. So anytime there's a threat of death, we almost can't stop wanting to see what's the latest disaster. So it's hard not to watch television or get online and hear what the latest death toll is or what the latest stories are. And the media, you know, are part of, you know, the old culture that are trying to sell you products, you know, advertising, and they sell it really well on keeping people scared. So I have to remind myself, don't watch that stuff. You know, it's not going to help you. There's good information that you can get, but you don't need to be watching every day the latest disaster, because that will keep you scared. It'll keep you stirred up. It'll keep you feeling either discouraged or crazy or upset, and limit that. Doesn't mean totally cut yourself off from information, but you don't need to be watching the disasters every moment of every day. Take a break, get around people, go out in nature, go for a walk, you know, relax, meditate. You know, a lot of good things we can do than watch endless recountings of their perception of what the disaster is and what the other side is doing wrong. We need to have a different perception.
Cool.
So those are my recommendations or sharings, and beyond that, I just really honor people who want to stay awake, want to be willing to feel what they feel, and also feel and have the courage to want to do better for ourselves and future generations than we've done up until now.
Cool. And what's the best way for people to connect with you and read everything that you're sharing?
My kind of window to the world is called menalive.com, menalive.com. And you go there, you can see all the things I've written, my regular articles. If I have any groups, I let you know through those. You can email me and tell me, you know, if you heard that here. I mentioned to you, if anybody emails me and says, I heard you, or heard you on Andy's show or whatever, anything that says something that you heard me here, I'll send you one of my, I call it the Good Men Manifesto, interesting for women and men, that tells you all the things that I think are important about who we are as men and what women need to know about men. And I'm happy to share that with anybody that asks for it.
And with that said, does the role of men, is there a new role for men in this post-COVID world?
Yeah. There's a role for everybody, first of all, so not just men. But the truth is that I think men have been the canaries in the coal mine for a long time, indicating that things are not going well. And the probably the strongest indicator of that is the suicide rate for males, is anywhere between 3 and 18 times higher than it is for women. So there's something unique about the pain that men have been experiencing. And also, I think when you're in trauma, it's often those that get through it, who don't die, who say, you know what, I need to be in a different place. So I think men are being particularly called upon to go beyond where we are to a new way of being in the world and to be able to create together something new. So yeah, I think there's something unique about being males that are calling us in some unique, specific ways that we need to step forward. And that's kind of part of the work that I do with men to help us all come together and do that better.
Cool. Jed, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me and all of our listeners. But really, I feel like this is a good selfish show for me. Like I said at the beginning, before we started recording, Jed asked how I was. Like, I'm not good, and that's why I'm saving it for the show. I'll tell you in the show. I just have learned to trust myself that when I'm going through something, if I share it, there's always other people going through that same thing. And so that's another way to connect, is to share more, be open more. If you're like me, if you're listening, and if you feel like your faith has been kicked in the nuts, don't deny it. Like, feel what's showing up. Like, it's okay.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wherever we're on the sinking ship, we're all humans, and we all still have all of the emotions are there. And
exactly.
As kind of our wake up calls get more intensified, certainly our emotions can feel more intensified too.
Sure. And that's good. It's part of what reminds us we're alive, and reminds us we're connected, and it reminds us that we need to connect and let each other know, hey, I'm here, I'm feeling too, and let's feel together and let's heal together.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. So thanks again, Jed. Thanks for everyone listening. Visit realmenfeel.org for the show notes, for all the links to all of Jed's fantastic books, and to get in touch with menalive.com. Read everything that he's putting out. It's all, I have never read a Jed Diamond piece that I didn't think was fantastic. And I can confidently say that.
Very kind.
Cool.
Thank you.
And through this all and beyond, once you get in your lifeboat, whatever that might be for you, be good to yourself, be good to each other, and be willing to make new connections, because that's the only way we get through this. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Indeed.
Thank you for listening to Real Men Feel. Contact us at realmenfeel@gmail.com. Learn more about Andy Grant at theandygrant.com. Please subscribe to this podcast and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, TuneIn, or wherever you are discovering Real Men Feel.